topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great show today. We just went through a horrible hurricane in parts of Florida. Before I go any further, if you are a public adjuster, and we have a lot of public adjusters who watch our show, we are looking for a public adjuster in Georgia and in North Carolina, where they've both been hit really bad. So if you own those areas, please call us at 954-336-3767. Our phones have been ringing off the wall for a public adjuster in either North Carolina or in Georgia. Hey, we've got such a great show for you today. We found a couple of months ago one of the top public adjusters in Florida, as well as in Texas. He does 2 shows a month with us. Let's bring on Ellie.
Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Hey, bud, you got to change your name to Eli. I keep wanting to say Eli.
I respond to both, especially for my Texas clients. They like the hard E, not the soft E. But South Florida, they're a little more familiar with the soft E, but I respond to anything. That's what it takes to be in the business of helping people. Take a lot of pride in it.
What is going on down in Florida?
Well, there was, as you saw probably on the news, some really significant damage from Hurricane Helene. Storm surge affected the vast majority of the Panhandle, the Big Bend region that they call it there. Between Tallahassee and Tampa, basically, and the strongest wind speeds were where the storm made landfall right above Perry, Florida. So, a lot of people don't know the difference or have questions about what their coverages are and what the difference is between flood insurance and homeowners insurance. So maybe today would be a great opportunity to dive into that a little bit. But as a general, 10,000 foot summary, the homeowners covers top down damage, where the wind or wind driven rain would cause what's called a peril created opening is the exact language used in the policies. And once that peril created opening has water or drain, wind driven rain penetrate through it, that would also trigger coverage for anything that was affected as a result of that. The flood coverage would be any rising groundwater from the ground and, from bottom up. So in layman's terms, homeowners is top down coverage. Flood insurance is bottom up. But keep in mind, that is governed by FEMA, the federal government. And there's a lot of restrictions and a lot of exclusions or specificity in terms of what would trigger coverage and what wouldn't within the flood coverage. So, a lot of times I tell my clients it's best to file both, even if you don't think you might have wind-related damage. There might be some coverage for your contents that might not be covered under the flood, and vice versa. So if you have, if you have claims with both, you have a puncher's chance. But a lot of times people have misconception that they don't have coverage, or it wouldn't be enough damage to get over their deductible, things of that nature. So obviously we evaluate on a case by case basis. But there definitely would be more coverage in a general sense of the term under your homeowner's policy than flood, just generally. But obviously, again, flood is bottom up, homeowners is top down.
Did you see where pro golfer John Daly lost his entire house?
I did not see that, actually, no. But yeah, he said
it's
a very
gone.
well-known golfer.
Ellie, are you surprised that a lot of people don't really know what their homeowner's policy says?
I'm not. You'd think that people know what it is that they're purchasing or read through the terms and conditions when they're giving up their privacy rights, every time they click that checkbox on their phone or their tablet or computer. And insurance is one of those things where it's a necessary evil. If you have a mortgage, you're required to carry homeowners insurance, but 99 times out of 100 or even more, they don't ever look at it. The homeowners don't look at it until it's kind of too late, until they have a claim, until there's a fire in the house, God forbid, or a plumbing leak or a hurricane. And then it's like, well, wait, I didn't know that I didn't have coverage for this, or I didn't know my coverage was limited to this. And then it's like, well, I'm the public adjuster. I didn't sell you the policy. Your insurance agent or your insurance companies who sold you the policy, that you got to take up with them. There is a thing called errors and omissions where if, the insurance agent doesn't properly educate the consumer at the time of purchase on what it is that they're buying, you can actually file an insurance claim against their commercial lines of insurance. And that would be what's called a third party claim. I handle first party claims where I represent the insured. Any other third parties, like a contractor who's at fault, an insurance agent who sells the policy without properly educating them, that would have to be handled by an attorney because that's what's considered a third party claim.
Ellie, we're targeting Florida today. What should people, I know insurance is so expensive here in Florida, but what should people make sure that they have in their policy for Florida?
Definitely windstorm coverage, right? Because, Florida is very prone, as you see, to hurricanes. You do want to check the deductible usually is a percentage of your coverage A limit. So coverage A covers the dwelling itself, the roof, the four walls of the structure. Coverage B would be other structures such as a fence, a detached garage, a shed, things of that nature. Coverage C is personal contents. Coverage D is loss of use. So if you're using the property for rental income and as a result of a claim, you're no longer receiving that rental income because the tenant had to move out, or if you or the tenant have to reside in a hotel, that would be considered alternative living expenses. That falls under coverage D for loss of use. And on the declarations page of your policy, it'll list coverage A, coverage B, coverage C, coverage D. And then there's a numerical value with a $ next to that. And that's your limit of insurance for each line item or each category. So those are definitely things that are key to go over at the time of purchase. And those are the first things I look at when I open up a policy and evaluate, whether or not the damage to a prospective client's property would meet that deductible, right? If it's a hurricane claim, and their limit of insurance is on coverage A, $500,000, and they have, a 10% hurricane deductible, then obviously it's $50,000, right? So they'd have to be above $50,000 in damage before I can get them a single penny because the deductible comes out of the first check or series of checks, and my 10% fee only applies to the post-deductible amount of the money that they are receiving or that I recover on their behalf.
Yeah, people don't realize that, that the way you get paid, you don't realize your first set until you've finalized the deal. So you do so much work before you've realized one dime.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it comes out in increments. the insurance company never forks out $1 million right away. So that first payment is what they call the undisputed payment. And the deductible comes out of that. So oftentimes they'll say it's under the deductible amount and they don't write a check, or it's just above the deductible and they'll maybe write a check for $1,500 or $2,000. And the poor Mr. and Mrs. homeowner are sitting there with a hole in their roof and can't really live in the house. And they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? So my value comes in on the disputed amount, where I write an estimate that represents the worst case scenario of what it takes to fully indemnify the homeowner or business owner to restore the property to the pre-loss condition, which is the exact definition of indemnification. That's what an insurance contract is in place, is to indemnify the insured and restore the property to the pre-loss condition, whatever it was before the damage occurred. A lot of times it's not one lump sum payment. We have to incrementally squeeze it out of them. And the biggest piece of ammunition that I use is my office's estimate, which is a comprehensive scope of, let's say they have roof damage, the water penetrated through the roof and it created ceiling stains, and the paint on the ceiling is continuous throughout the entire house. So there's laws in place, statutes in Florida that protect homeowners, where the insurance company can't just pay to repaint the area of the ceiling that's damaged. If it's the same color paint, it's the pre-loss condition, right? So it looked consistent. It looked one uniform color before the loss occurred. So after the loss happens and the repair happens, it has to look consistent. Again, that's restoring it to the pre-loss condition. So I take those tricks of the trade to make sure that the insurance company is paying every last penny that they're required to, per the terms of the policy and per Florida statute. And then obviously I get aggressive, because in good faith and conscience, I tell the insurance carriers that, I can't guarantee a contractor isn't going to damage the kitchen cabinets, or that the floor isn't going to get damaged when they're detaching and resetting the kitchen cabinets. So I have to think of all these things ahead of it and make sure that my client isn't left holding the bag or have to dip into their own pocket after they pay my 10 cents on the dollar. I want to make sure they have enough money to get the repairs done, and hopefully enough in their pocket for some reserves, because there's always unforeseen circumstances when it comes to construction projects.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I want people, we're running your phone number down below. We're going to give it out again. There's a couple more hurricanes out there, and they said one of them could follow the same path as Helene. It's amazing. You don't have information unless something happens. And I want you to write this phone number down. I want you to write Ellie's phone number down, because you never know. Give everybody your phone number, Ellie.
So my Florida office number is 305-447-8822. Again, that's 305-447-8822. It's also listed on my website, infinitypublicadjusting.com. You can schedule your free consultation directly online at infinitypublicadjusting.com, or by calling that number, the 305-447-8822. And I always tell people the best way to get started is to send me a copy of their full policy, or take a photo of the declarations page of the policy. And you can find my email address as well on my website. It's just the first letter of my first name, which is E, and then my last name, Haft, H-A, F as in Frank, T as in Tom, at infinitypublicadjusting.com. And then obviously I can evaluate the policy. If you send any photos of the damage, or we can schedule an on-site visit for me to assess the damage and then apply the policy provisions to said damages.
This is probably the most important question I'm going to ask you. We assume people know, but, a lot of people don't know what a public insurance adjuster does. So why don't you explain that?
Yeah, great question, Steve. When anyone files an insurance claim, the claim gets assigned to an insurance adjuster, whether that's an independent adjuster They might not work for the carrier directly, especially in catastrophes such as a hurricane. The insurance carriers are overwhelmed and they assign it to, most oftentimes it's an independent adjuster, someone who doesn't work for a PA firm, someone who doesn't work exclusively for a carrier. They just get assigned the file and they go out and write an estimate. A public adjuster represents the insurance, the insured under the policy. So my interests are in alignment with the insured. I get paid a percentage, 10% in an emergency, 20% for a non-emergency. So I want my client to get paid as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Our interests are in alignment. The insurance adjuster, if they work for the carrier, they are usually graded and evaluated on how much money they save the insurance company. So there's obviously a dichotomy there, right? Like one wants to mitigate and minimize the value of the claim. And then I obviously want to maximize it and make sure that my client is getting the full value of the claim. So like I mentioned earlier, I write an estimate that represents the comprehensive worst case scenario of every element that goes into the process. I kind of tell people I'm like a hybrid between a pro bono attorney and an accountant. So we do an accounting of all the expense related expenditures that my client has had, whether it be a hotel, whether they had to trash groceries because of a power outage. They had to hire a remediation company to perform a dry out and cut out mold, things of that nature. And then I write an estimate for the rebuild. And we add up all those items. And, we try to make sure that the insurance company pays enough to make sure they have enough money to do the repairs.
These insurance companies are not your friend, are they?
Yeah, I mean, they're not your good neighbor. You're not in good hands. I mean, they got their hands out. If you look at Allstate's logo, the hands are out because they want that premium every month. But, but you're not in good hands. Some are more gratuitous than others. I mean, Chubb in New York, I don't really see Chubb in Florida. They're much better, but obviously they cost a lot more. You get what you pay for. That's a much higher premium. In Texas, Amica is really good. So there are some. USAA, I don't know if you guys saw, they just had a class action lawsuit of $64 million.
Wow.
Yep. They were sued because they were involved in some nefarious practices. And I don't know if anybody tuned in for 60 Minutes on Sunday, but if you go onto YouTube and type in 60 Minutes from this most recent episode on Sunday, there was a whole featured segment on whistleblowers who worked for insurance carriers, and they explained how they would write an estimate for $100,000. They'd come back and submit their report to the desk adjuster, and the desk adjuster would say, take out 90% of that or take out all of it. And then by the end of it, it was either under deductible or a very low undisputed payment. And people just got fed up with it. And they said, I can't sleep at night. I'm in the business of screwing people that are, pardon my French, but they're paying a premium for coverage. And I'm out here trying to write an honest report for what their damage entails. And then my supervisor saying, no, take this out, take that out, take this out. And it's like, that's not what the policy provisions entail. And that's not how it's supposed to work. So when you talk about the rich get richer, I tell people I'm like Robin Hood, steal from the rich and give to the poor. That's exactly what's going on. While these insurance carriers are collecting your premiums at millions, if not billions of dollars per month, they're going ahead and investing that money in hyper secure mutual funds and bonds and making interest on your money, similar to banks, because the insurance companies are in bed with the banks, right? So the time value of the money is actually more valuable than the actual money itself. We have to, even when we get settlements, we have to charge interest a lot of times with certain carriers because they'd rather delay and take in more tranches of premiums and make interest on those tranches of premiums than actually pay out when they're supposed to and avoid the interest. Because even with paying the interest, they're still making more money from the interest that they're earning on the additional premiums, if that makes sense. So the whole system is kind of not functioning the way it's supposed to. And that's why I tell people I have a lot of job security, keyword trying to keep these carriers honest.
Gosh, you just can't trust anybody. My girlfriend's got USAA, and she swears by them. They're a lot more expensive. And I said, you know what? You never know. And what a story about them.
Yeah, look it up. The article is public. It was just published, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. A client of mine who I'm representing who has USAA, and I'm the son of a military member, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that my father served our country and was honorably discharged, and he served during wartime. But USAA markets themselves to military and military families, and then that's the thanks that we get for serving our country. We get taken advantage of. That's not right. That's not a patriotic way of doing business at all. So there's a lot of damage out there. There's a lot of people that are displaced. There's a lot of people that are missing. There's complete towns that are just missing off the map. And Steve, you alluded to it earlier that there's other storms brewing, and they have the same track now. This is like the third storm that has hit Perry, Steinhatchee, Florida in the last year and a half. And there's some advanced technology out there that nowadays there's cloud seeding.
Yes.
Dubai got a year's worth of rain in one day at the end of April, where they're injecting chemicals into these rain clouds. And think about it. If you cloud seed a hurricane, you've got a hurricane that has a massive amount of rain that's flooding areas that, there's HAARP where they can use electromagnetic frequency to control and manipulate the path of the storm. So it's very scary times we're living in, Steve, where people don't realize that there's very nefarious people in control of very powerful things, and they're manipulating and using the weather as a form of weapons, weaponizing weather, which is really scary. And people need to be aware that you have your insurance policy in place. But you also need to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and make sure you're in a safe place. If a hurricane is coming towards your location, it's better if there's a state of emergency to prepare for the worst. I tell people you can replace houses, you can replace cars, you can replace material items. You can't replace people. People are irreplaceable. So. We're living in very, very precarious times right now. And I'm here just not about my own benefit, not for my company, just for your own safety. Heed the warnings. Don't stay out and ride out a hurricane. Try to see if you can stay with a loved one, a family member, somewhere safe that's out of the path of the storm or the projected path of the storm. Get on a bus, get on a train, take an Uber. Whatever the case may be, stay in a hotel out of the area for a few days, spend that money because it's better than going missing and having your friends and family worry about you for days or months, or God forbid you perish and are never heard from again.
Yeah, Sheriff Bradshaw of Palm Beach County was really upset that a lot of people didn't heed his warning and leave. And I got to tell you, so Ellie and I are in Southeast Florida, and we did not get hit that bad by the hurricane. But there's a lot of people in Delray and Boca and Miami, who got, some of this punch from this last hurricane. And Ellie, I want people to understand that they have a right to fight these claims they put in. I know a lot of people are afraid that their rates are going to go up even higher, where we have a problem here in Florida. But it's your right, though, to dispute a claim.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if a claim is denied or underpaid, I can reopen that claim if it's within the last 5 years. I can reopen the claim and see if we can get you coverage. You definitely don't have to settle for whatever the insurance company initially says. They can call it closed, that it's closed on their end, but there's a statute of limitations. It's different statutes for an emergency claim as opposed to a non-emergency claim. The statute is 2 years for an emergency claim to file. You have 2 years to file the claim. So, within that time frame, as long as you file, I can reopen it if it's underpaid or denied. And then there's also bad faith claims if they deny or underpay in bad faith, which is a whole nother lawsuit on top of the lawsuit for the actual claim itself.
Ellie, is always, your show goes by so fast. Give everybody your phone number and your website again.
So it's 305-447-8822. Again, that's 305-447-8822. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Happy to help. It's a free consultation. My website is infinitypublicadjusting.com. If you'd like to edify yourself, there's a FAQ section, frequently asked questions that answer common questions. What's the difference between a public adjuster and an attorney? What is it that a public adjuster does? How does a public adjuster get paid? And these are just very, very good resources for you to utilize and give you some answers to commonly asked questions. So, you can stay ahead of it and not be reactive, but proactive. And this way you're aware and know how the process works in the event that you ever do have an insurance claim and you need to hire a professional. You know how the process works, and hopefully you call the best in the business.
Ellie will be back again with us for our Florida show next month. Ellie, thank you so much. And we're going to see you soon with your Texas show.
Always great speaking with you, Steve. Thanks so much. I look forward to it.
Okay, buddy. Hey, that's Ellie Haft. He's our public adjuster for Florida and Texas. Again, remember, if you know of a public adjuster in Georgia or North Carolina, we're getting a lot of calls from people. We're going to go to a short break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.